Hello and welcome to The Wealth Within Us. I am so fortunate today to have Laurie Wagner Storlie, and she is a Rapid Transformational Therapist certified, and she works in the Lehigh Valley, but also she works virtually. So she's going to give us a taste of how to transform your mindset lickety split. And I've already had a session with her, so we'll probably go into that as well. But right now, I want Laurie to introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Michelle, thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I am a licensed rapid transformational therapist. I'm a certified hypnotherapist, and I am a lifelong autodidactic brain science person. I go down the rabbit hole all day, every day about brain development, brain science, what's going on, what kind of new discoveries we're finding in the field of brain science and brain health. It's just my passion. I've always been interested in human behavior, which led me down to the psychology path.
Yeah. And you've had quite a long career history as well.
Yeah, I've gone in so many different directions because I have a lot of passions, I guess. I have a lot of interests and I just go for it, whatever it
They seem
is.
to overlap too. They do
Yeah.
seem to overlap, which is even better.
Yeah, they're finally starting to. I think in 2020, it was kind of like they were this way, kind of. And then I was like,
Yes, this is push that stuff together. Come on, you can do it.
Yes.
So how did you get started in this field of work? Because I know you lived in California for a while.
Yeah.
And how long have you been back here in Pennsylvania? So right now we're in Pennsylvania. So
Yeah.
how long have you been here and sort of what was that path?
Ooh, that was quite a journey. So I was offered a job. I was working in multimedia production here in the Lehigh Valley in the 1900s. So it was like 1990 something. At the time, was working with a guy who had moved out to California to work for an independent record label. And he sent me a message that said, Wagner, which was my surname back then, Wagner, we need you here in Long Beach, California. And I was like, send me the details. So
warm weather, I'm in.
Yeah, exactly. California, been there, love it. You got it. So we packed up everything in like a 1978 Ford Econoline van and really literally drove across the country, me and my boyfriend at the time. And that was that. I started working for this independent record label. That lasted for a few months. It was really kind of a crazy experience. And then I ended up working in the commercial industry, the film industry, the voiceover industry. So I took this really wonderful path of like going down the entertainment field. I discovered acting. I'd always been an actress, but like I really did the deep dive into one of my other favorite things, which was sketch comedy.
Ooh.
So I took classes at Second City and Improv Olympic and just went down that rabbit hole full bore and just did improv for many years. Love it so much. So that I talk about that because that is the piece over here that I was trying to make fit with where I am now, because that was improv. If anybody has heard about improv, you can go on TED Talks, TEDx, and put in improv, and you'll see people who use the rules of improv for science, for sales, for team building, for parenting, for all these kind of things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's not just to make people laugh.
It's not. And it's a philosophy. Like one of my teachers, I'm reading his book right now. I should pimp it out. His first gig back in the day when he was, bitten by the improv bug was to go around and do dramatic improv in prisons. And it was therapeutic work for the prisoners, and it was really amazing the work they did. So there's the outreach for what improv can do is all encompassing.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And you're still doing it today.
I'm still doing it today. I'm teaching it now here in the Lehigh Valley. I have a class called Improv for Everyday Survival, and that's basically taking kind of the intimidating performance part out of it and just saying, let's come here, be present, have fun, play with other people, and just laugh a lot. Be present and have a good time.
So you were out there, you were doing improv, and then what happened after you're doing the improv?
So in 2008, I got married. The bubble burst. So my job went away. I went back to school to get my certification in teaching and child development. And that's led me on a whole different path. So while I was in school, I was taking business, psychology, child development. And then by 2010, I was pregnant in school. I graduated in 2011, and I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I knew that my whole life, at least for the first 2 years. That's one thing I knew about myself. If I had a child, I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom for those first 2 years. Those were the most important years of the baby's life, setting, just making it like important and intentional. So that's what I did. And after 2 years, really literally 22 months, I went to see my professor. And she said, when you're ready to work, find this woman. And I found this woman, and she ended up being a mentor of mine in the child development sector. Through that, I discovered another need that really fit in with with my knowledge, so new parents were struggling, like what was going on with their kiddos. Like they didn't understand tantruming. They didn't understand all the things that were happening. I became a parent support provider, just kind of
to the home.
Yeah, it was really like fulfilling to do that. It mattered so much to me, finding a niche really, because parents were struggling, helping them with, understanding what was happening with their child, or creating like little adjustments in the way they interacted with their child. And, I saw like these little adjustments had these big outcomes, and I was like, yes, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I want to keep doing it.
Exactly. And it is a struggle. I mean, if you've had kids, and I have twins, so it definitely can be a struggle at times. Sometimes you want to definitely rip a hair or two out, maybe on both my head and their head, but
yeah.
but
And sometimes
nice.
It's hard for us as adults to really see them in their development stage, and to understand that up until age 3, they don't even have this prefrontal cortex activity going on. So they can't reason. Like a kid who's freaking out and having a tantrum is just having an overwhelming emotional experience, which we all have on every day. We have driving in traffic. I still get them, but but it's kind of like they don't know how to regulate that yet. The first language they come in with is emotion. They cry, they get their need met, period. So then we get upset with them for crying, and it's like it's their language.
Yeah, I want to cry and get my needs met. That doesn't happen very often.
Well, that kind of folds nicely into like the hypnotherapy. Like as we're growing up as kids, we're told not to cry. I know in my own childhood experience, I was told, stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about. And it never made sense to me because I was already crying. Like, what do you mean give me something to cry about? I'm already crying. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. And then I'm like, well, what are you going to do? Because I'm already so upset. Now you're going to make it worse. Ooh,
and now I'm afraid.
I better stop.
Now I'm afraid. Yeah. So,
it's crazy all this stuff that gets programmed into us. So you're doing this kind of work. Then where did that lead to? Because I'm already seeing how all of this ties together. So but I'll let you go on.
It's exactly how. So there's two factors. So one was seeing that parents had, triggers that would come up. So when the child would cry, they would get really upset and worked up, and they would get angry. So the 0 to 60, and identifying those triggers. Triggers are basically places in our psyche that need healing. The triggers come from something that happened maybe in our own childhood. And so we don't always understand that, or we don't know how to really identify that. Well, I learned through Rapid Transformational Therapy how to do that, how to help parents who are struggling with their triggers around their kid to identify and move through those triggers, basically get them out of their psyche and plant better things in their place. Uninstall an old bad program, because a lot of times it comes it comes innocently. So there's no like, let's go
Yeah.
back and talk about your mother and how she treated you. It's not like that. We don't want to live in like punishment in a putative space where that person did
Yeah. Or
to
live
me
in the
that I'm a
past
victim.
either.
Yeah. And like in that victimhood that
Yeah.
it doesn't move us forward. Like, yeah, some things shouldn't have happened the way they did, but how do we move forward from that knowledge? Okay, that happened. How do I heal from it and move forward and become a more, fulfilled and, intentional human being? So I'm not taking that with me.
Yeah. And it almost sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that I think it's up till 7 that we're sort of still in this learning process. So if we're taking all those thoughts and things that are around us and we're taking all that in, and we don't have the developmental capability to process those, then whatever it was that we're taking in, we're now taking it in whatever context it was at that time. And now as an adult or teenager or midlife, wherever you are, those things are still playing out that don't even mean anything, so to say. I don't want to say don't mean anything, but they don't really have any value to our lives, and they're mostly not truths. Is that correct?
That is correct, and it's correct on so many levels. And it is right from the age of birth to about 7 or 8 years old. We're in what's called the theta state. We're learning. We're learning. It's like being in the subconscious. So we're downloading all of these programs of all this information that we see. Our parents are our first teachers. So whatever they're doing, we're recording and we're saying, okay, that's what I should do. That's how I should be. And when we get in situations that are beyond our what we have the ability to cope with, we use whatever tools we have. So those tools were initiated at a developmental stage of, say, 5 years old, 7 years old. Those tools become the tools we use going forward.
How much of those things that were coming in do you think came out of fight or flight? I'm just, as I'm listening, I'm thinking probably a lot of them came out of fight or flight because we didn't have a whole background of knowledge and experience to deal with them.
I think you hit the nail on the head. That's where I like kind of, we are evolving in our learning, our knowledge, our abilities. And I think really that's really the key, is that we can't blame our parents. They did the best they could with the tools they had available to them then. Now we have the internet, we can explore, we can, look around for different ways of parenting that resonates with us. What kind of parenting that feels good to me, and that's the parenting I can use on my kiddo. But there's always still going to be that imprint from the time I was parented, 0 to 7, that's still going to be part of my framework. So that's knowing that parents can do something about it. So they can take that programming and kind of refine it, upgrade it in hypnotherapy.
And on an individual basis, like in my own journey, I look at the sort of subconscious tape reels that I'm running in my head. And once they come to surface, and I think that that's what I really liked about the session I had with you, is that once they come to surface, you can say, yeah, that doesn't even make sense. And it was funny because the day after, I woke up in the morning and I kind of had a reoccurring thought popped up. And I looked at it in a completely different way and really said to myself, like, how have I been running on that? It doesn't even make sense in my now adult logical mind. But I think where you come in that's so powerful for people is, until it was brought into my awareness, I just kept running off that nonsense, that bad tape reel or whatever you want to call it.
Well, and that's another thing that happens to us as humans, like there's, we use 5% of our brain for our conscious mind, which is running 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. And most of those thoughts are the same thoughts every day. So that thought has been coming through probably for a really long time.
Yes.
And you didn't really see it, but now that you see it in a different light, just that small, like little adjustment that we made in your session, all of a sudden you see things differently and you can make the change live and in your life. You can just go, oh yeah, no.
Yeah,
because
that doesn't make sense anymore. Why was I
doing
that?
It doesn't make sense anymore because it's something that as a 5-year-old, it made sense and it worked. And I kept using it all this time. Yeah. But I can see that doesn't work. I need a more mature way of doing it, so to speak.
Yeah. And in a way that fosters my growth along the way and my personal wealth, whatever that means to me. And just sort of getting grips over control of my life, I guess you would say. I've been doing all this and I've been doing it this way, and now I'm bringing in these new tools to say, hey, wait a minute, stop, look at what you're doing. And until you become aware of that, because I kind of definitely feel that once you become aware of something, it's really hard to become unaware of it. So now you can release it, let it go, be like, okay, logically, this doesn't serve me. So that's crazy. And I'm going to stop thinking that way.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. One thing that you and I talked about was like abundance healing, because we need to heal around abundance. We were brought up in this scarcity mindset. I know that
so many people can relate to this. And that's why I'm so glad that you're talking about it, because it's definitely one of my themes in my life. And I know it's pervasive in the world right now.
Yeah, one of the questionnaires I like to hand out to people is these sayings that I heard as a child, and I know other people have heard as a child. Money doesn't grow on trees.
No.
Money is the root of all evil. So, throw any of them in there.
Yeah, my dad, everybody called my dad Rocky. So his famous saying was, "I'm Rock, not Rockefeller."
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I think it's good.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you heard a parent or somebody around you say, we can't afford that? I mean, so those things are kind of written not only in our initial programming from the 0 to 7, but played out throughout the rest of our lives, because then as you become a working adult, your mindset is, wrapped around like what you can afford and what you can't afford. So you're so focused on
which wraps around your self-worth, because not only what can I afford and what can I afford, but what am I worthy of? What am I not worthy of? What am I worth? What am I not worth? So I think it kind of has this perpetuating cycle.
It's all intertwined. And that's another conversation we had about like what, charting what your work is worth. So you're an independent, you have your own business, as do I. We're kind of in the same field in our side hustle of marketing. And one of the things that really empowered me was charging my rate and having somebody say, no, I can't afford that. And me being, that's right, you can't. That's right. And it's okay that you can't.
Yes.
It's okay that you can't afford my rate. Somebody will be able to, but it's a hard thing to explain. Like my brother has a business too, and he has struggled with the money and abundance piece with scarcity. And he believes that every person wants to talk him down from his rate, and it angers him. And I'm like, those aren't your people. Just move on. And he can't get his head around that. He's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Not have any clients? Like,
no. And it is hard. And then you're like, but I want to help these people. And it's like, you get caught in this whole mind game of, but I want to help them and they deserve it too. And it's like, but I've had all this experience and training and knowledge and expertise, and I need to charge what I'm worth as well. So I'm worth it too. It's like, yes, they're worth it too. And they're going to find the right person for them. And I'm going to find the right person for me.
That's right. And it's okay to say a person's not your person. So when I said that's right, well, then you can't afford it. It's because in your mind, there's something telling you that you can't afford to do something for yourself.
Yeah.
You're
And
not
I've
worth.
definitely been in positions where I've afforded things that I thought I couldn't afford, and
Period.
then the money came. Like if it was something I really wanted, the money came. And that was one of the other topics in our session, was my just in time reel.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I used to
That's
have,
a greatest hit.
yeah,
It was. It's like
nice.
Michelle's greatest hits. Just in time, just in time. Everything comes just in
Just
time.
in time.
Anyway.
Well, there's abundance in that. At least it's not scarcity. It's at
Yes.
least it's not
Yes.
enough. Do you know what I mean? Not enoughness
Mhm.
keeps you so, like it can lead to depression. It can lead to anxiety.
Yes.
Just in time, there's a little bit of faith behind that. Like,
Mhm.
I know it always comes just in time. It's just the right amount and it's just in time. But you and I both were talking about,
Yes.
we want to move into abundance. We're ready. We're ready
Exactly.
to do
Yeah.
it. And
Because
that's where
just in
we're
time
headed.
is a form of scarcity as well. And it's a form,
Mhm.
it causes stress and anxiety, and
Yeah.
it doesn't allow you to do things spontaneously. And like there's a whole thing wrapped around that as well. So, it's progress for me. It's peeling that onion
Feeling that on you.
that you
Yeah.
want to just cry every time a layer comes off. That's probably why onions make you cry. I don't know. I just thought.
So awesome. I like that analogy. That's why onions make you
Bye
cry.
bye
True.
layer. Sit there and
Bye
cry.
bye. Yeah. It's so true. So yeah, abundance is just a mindset issue. I mean, I say just, and I don't mean to minimize it, but we have been programmed to not believe in abundance
Hmm.
as a society. I
Yes.
mean, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but if you look back in time and realize that um, it's important for us to be controllable, and the way we are controllable is through money. And it's not a
Yeah.
conspiracy theory. You can see it.
I honestly think that it's a rabbit hole worth going down, because it actually gets to the root cause. So if you say, why do I have this scarcity mentality? Why do I think money doesn't grow on trees? Why do some people have so much and some people have so little? I think going down those rabbit holes really gets you down to the root of it. Now, I think the part to be clear about is like, okay, well, you can get to the root of it, but in the end, what are you going to do about it? It's
Yeah.
still your free will. It's still your action, that either you need to change those tapes, you need to do something about those. But I
Mhm.
do think it is worthwhile going down that rabbit hole, because I think, as you and I know, it's sort of it's freeing, because you're like, oh, this is the truth about this. It wasn't me. It was a
Wasn't
lie
me.
that I was bringing. Yeah, it wasn't. It was these influences on me that I took in as my own and now became part of my story, that weren't part of my story.
Yeah. You again hit the nail on the head, as like we let us letting things become part of our story. Even our memories are diluted over time. So what
Yes.
happened to us, like a traumatic event or something that happened to us when we were little,
Mhm.
it gets continuously reframed over time to the point
Yes.
where we're in our 50s, and the memory we have of that event is probably not even close to what really
It's
actually happened.
it's like our very own whisper down the alley.
It really is. Yes, to our throughout our psyche and
Yes.
our growth,
Whisper down the alley
because
at 10 and 15 and 20, and now I'm at like
yeah,
50, and it's like, dang, that's a long alley.
yeah, because like all those studies tell you about memory. Like if you're in this scene of an accident and you're
Mhm.
reporting back what you saw, it's with 10% at best accuracy. But you feel like, no, no, it's
Crazy.
100%. I know that guy was wearing a blue shirt. I know he had brown glasses. Like, really though? Like
Yeah.
they've done study after study after study, guys in lineups, like people come in and they try to get like five guys that look the same, and it's hard for people to really
Yeah. Focus
ooh,
in.
yeah, or really remember with accuracy. So
Yeah. And it's funny that you're saying that, because I remember I was always not very good at multiple choice
mm,
tests, because I was like, I don't know, in my head, I could make up a reason for every one of those answers to be right.
oh,
So it
totally.
does, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Don't even get me on started on testing.
I know, that's another rabbit hole.
Yeah. But
But
yeah,
yeah, but
that's
as far as the stories that were told, back to that and how we frame them and how we remember them, I mean, wow, our brain really kind of, yeah, explain that part. Cause like now that we're talking about it, I'm like, so how does our brain handle that? Like what's going on inside of there? What's going on in there?
It's processing. So like a computer system. So when this happens, if I do this, I'm okay.
Okay.
When this happens to me, I'm scared, fight or flight, and I do this, I don't get hurt. I'm safe, I'm protected. So in a session, we realized that a lot of times things came in to help us. We did these practices to protect us, to keep us safe. And
Yeah.
again, it's like, you can go deep and really see that, like some people who have a lot of weight to lose, the weight can be traced all the way back to a time when they were really little and they were either touched inappropriately or something. And so they made themselves bigger and bigger and bigger so that they didn't draw that kind of attention to themselves. They did because it wasn't safe. So when they didn't look pretty, nobody bothered them. And these are true stories. And then there's stories that go back to like eating challenges. Eating challenges happen because of, something innocent, like every time you were sad, you got taken out for ice cream. And so as you get older, the way you cope with sad feelings is you go get ice cream or you eat a bucket of ice cream. And a lot of us, we don't have control to around that. You know what I mean? We don't have.
And the thing is it's so individualized that sometimes you just can't read a book and be like, oh, that's me, because it might not be you. Like you have your own thing with whatever the action is or the thing that you're trying to let go of is. So I think that's why it's super helpful to do work like this with you, to sort of uncover those and then let them go. It's not uncovering them, and I'm sure you would stress this as well. It's not uncovering them to dwell on them. It's uncovering these things to move forward, look at it for what it is, rationalize it out, and let it go. Like love it and let it go. Like, okay, you're no longer servicing me. Thank you for your service. Now it's time for me to move on.
Yeah, and kind of do a reframe in adulthood of, oh, wow, that was keeping me safe for a really long time. I understand why I did that.
Yeah.
I understand how it's impacting my life now in a negative way, and I don't want to do that anymore. I can do other things because I'm older now and I understand it better. I have more coping skills now. I can,
have more life experience, and depending on your path, like I've been down this sort of self-help and energy work and releasing things for a long time. So, I'm deep in that onion. but that onion is like gigantic.
Yeah.
So, I still got lots of layers to peel off, but definitely going to, like, you and other things that I've done help remove those layers so much faster. And that's what we want, right? We want to let go of these things and become who we're supposed to be, and let go of all this stuff to clear our brain so we can focus and not. I thought it was interesting what you were saying earlier, how you were saying all these things that we talk to ourselves about and tell us, and these conversations that go on in our head. It's so crazy how we justify things.
It really is. It's crazy how we justify things, and it's crazy how abusive we can be to ourselves. We would never let anybody say the things to us that we say to ourselves. It's really heartbreaking sometimes.
It is. And so I've been there. Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, I encourage some of my patients to get a book, a journal, or I provide them in sessions with, I give some of my clients a journal. And if they're dealing with those looping negative thoughts, and I encourage them to write the negative thought on one side and write the reframe on the other side, the actual truth, because you believe a lie for as long as there's nothing countering it. But once you counter it with a truth, the lie doesn't have any power over you anymore.
Yeah. It's amazing how like that truth just, it blows that lie right out of the water.
Right
and
out
it is freeing. And I say this all the time, like the truth will set you free. And I believe that in every sense of those words. I truly, truly believe that.
Yeah, it really is. And like you said, like just realizing like, oh, I was doing that. I didn't even realize I was doing
Mhm.
that. It wasn't anything I did. I just walked you back to
Yeah.
a place in your mind where something started, and we get into the subconscious aspects. Like
Mhm.
I told you, I did a session with my mom, when I was on my learning journey of this, and she went back to a memory when she was 2 years old, like with highly descriptive detail that she'd never mentioned before to me. She didn't even remember in her conscious mind this memory. And I was like, wow, that's so crazy. And in one of my times that I went back, my mom had a child before me, and her brain wasn't fully developed.
Mhm.
And so she required a lot of care and emotional like intensity from my mom. And then the doctor, for some reason, told my dad to get her pregnant again as quickly as possible, which then
Oh.
came me. So I'm like, Dad, I'm here to fix that body. Yay! I was the fixer baby. That's what I learned about myself in therapy. I was the fixer baby. So I came to fix whatever was going on with my mom having a child that wasn't fully developed.
Okay.
Um, and I went back in a session to a time when I was in a bouncer. I was little,
Okay.
and I was in another room, and my big sister and my mom were in the other room, and I couldn't get my mom's attention because she was dealing with my older sister. And so it was like to see myself through my baby eyes and see
Mm.
that I had to take care of myself in a way. So
Yeah.
that has been me my whole life. I don't rely on anybody. I got it. I don't rely on other people. I do it myself, which is kind of a disability in a way, because I don't encourage help from other people.
Yeah. I see that.
And so learning that about myself was hugely awakening, like going, oh, okay, it wasn't like anything bad happened to me. It was just my mom was dealing with something that was beyond what she was like, I think
Yeah.
17.
And I think even as adult, things like
No,
out
20.
that,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think even as an adult, those things play out. And as society sort of looks on it like you're weak or you can't do this. And I think especially as women, we get that even in a greater fold. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it's like, no, I can do this, I can do it myself. And I've definitely struggled down those paths, but then eventually realized that, man, I'm burning myself out. And I realized that I don't want to learn all this other stuff. So I am just going to, enlist the help of other people. I'm even on my own journey of sort of letting go of things that are no longer serving me, and my own wealth journey that, I am currently on to get where I want to get. If I
Yeah.
want to get there, I am 50 and I want to get there now, because I look at it
Yeah.
like I still got half of my life to live and I want to live the rest of that life in abundance. So I'm going to throw everything I can think of within my means and my awareness to get there. And that's
Yeah.
why, like, I've come to see you and I've done some other things, and I love sharing this so other people that feel the same way, that they can do this themselves. I mean, how hard is it to bring up these memories by yourself? I mean, I would imagine you could probably do it in meditation, but I mean, I just think the help of someone like you is so critical if you're trying to fast forward that journey.
Yeah. I think it's not really that easy to do yourself. And I can tell you because you know, I can't do it on myself, and
Yeah,
I know how to do it. So it's something that with the help of somebody who's guiding you, who doesn't have any kind of agenda on what they're looking for, because when you do it yourself, you're looking for something and you're not going to find it
exactly.
that way. It's
And
like
I
the what
think even in meditation, we still kind of go in with a little bit of a bias. And I'm not going to lie, I've had a lot of profound meditations as well.
sure.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I still do. But I think you're only going to get to such a level because it's still you and all your biases to a certain
Yeah.
extent. You can only, I think, let go of so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to touch on that meditation
Oh, good.
piece, because I think a lot of people struggle with meditation because
Mm.
they think it's supposed to be om yum, yum, yum. And it's like, no. I mean, meditative practice could be like walking on a treadmill where you zone out, you're fully present, but like, your brain just goes into this kind of creative state where you're running all this stuff in your mind and all the possibilities and all the dreams. Say daydreaming is a state of meditation. It's a way of creating a life for yourself in a meditative state that you can manifest. What prevents us from manifesting our daydreams sometimes is that negative programming. So like in your meditative state, you're seeing yourself in that mansion or by the beach, and you're like, oh, oh, this is the best. But then you come out of it, or you'll even back off of a daydream sometimes because you're like, oh, I don't want to get my hopes up. I
Mm.
don't want to, I don't want to count. I don't want to daydream something that's bigger than I can actually do.
Yeah. Or
You
that'll
know,
never happen to me. That's for
yeah,
other people. That's a big one I used to say to myself.
yeah, yeah. It's not available to me. I don't have enough. Like we have all of these kind of reasons why we can't do it. And our minds are always processing constantly. Okay, how can I get enough money to do this? How can I get enough money to do this? But that's in our conscious mind. And so what happens in our conscious mind is we'll go, well, okay, here's how much I make in my job. Here's how much I need to make to get this. Oh my God, that's such a huge difference.
Yeah.
But if we just stop all of that and we say, I want to live on the beach for the rest of my life, and then just trust that that's going to happen, it will happen, because our subconscious mind is basically a robot doing exactly what we tell it. We're writing the program. So if we're telling it, you're never going to have enough money to do that, it's like, yep, you're right. I'm never going to have enough money to do that. It's going to run
Yep.
that program. But once you tell it something different, yep, I'm going to have so much money. I'm going to invite all my friends to the beach.
Yeah.
And that's really that simple. But
And then that triggers, and you and I talk about, then that triggers the second piece of that, which is the inspired action, which is, I
yes,
think, the most profound piece, because I think anybody can sit back and, to a certain extent, believe that it can be yours, imagine it happening. I
Mhm.
think the second step is the hardest. It's that inspired action. And I love that it's not just action, because we can be taking action that is getting us nowhere. So I
You
like
can
the way that
feel
you
that.
framed it, the inspire. Yes,
Yeah, you can feel it in your
absolutely.
body when you're like fighting, you're pushing
Yeah.
against something that's not moving, right? That's when you stop.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not in our culture to stop, to not be moving, to not be
Yes.
working hard. So it's like
And we don't
almost like,
like to fail. We don't
yes,
like to be wrong. We don't like to fail. We certainly don't like to admit when we fail or are wrong. So like, I think that's other programming that sort of halts that inspired action. And that inspired action now just poof, goes away.
yeah. And what's funny about like not saying we don't like to fail is that you absolutely have to fail in order to succeed. It is part of the formula. It is
I
absolutely
love
part of
that.
the formula. So like when we try to go, as an independent business owner, when you first try, it takes a while to get your client base
Yes.
happening, and you have dips, ebbs and flows in it in the business. So if you don't have the tenacity to know in your whole self that this is what I want to do and this is what I'm going to do, and keep that persisting, you're never going to make it.
Yeah.
Because when you're in one of those dips or those, ebbs, you're going to
Yes.
doubt yourself right out of it.
Yeah. And it is important not only to fail, but to look at the failure and see why you failed. And probably even more importantly, is not be afraid to try again.
Yeah.
If you just stay in the failure, then that just becomes another loop.
Yeah. It's
And I'm
funny
sure
because
we're creating loops all day long. I mean, now that I'm
we
thinking about it,
are.
it's like, oh my God, got lots of work to do.
We absolutely are. And here's a funny example I gave is that my daughter, who's 11, was learning how to ride a bike. And she didn't want to get on the bike and try because she was afraid she was going to fall off. I said, so how are you going to learn? She goes, I don't know. And so it took her a really long time to get her head around that. And like the main thing was she didn't want to fall off. She didn't want to fall. So like she had to talk to her brain and get it to a point where it was like, okay, I'm going to get on the bike and I'm going to ride, but I'm not going to fall. She trained her brain, and I swear to God, she got on the bike and she rode it. She didn't fall, but she figured it out. But my daughter, and we all are, as human beings who we are, my daughter gets to a point and she'll get really, really angry and frustrated. And then I'm like, take a break and come back to it. We were talking about that, taking a break and coming back to it with fresh eyes. She did it. Like she was doing it her whole life. So it's like, wow, like we are capable of so much.
And I think when we take that pause, consciously and subconsciously, we're doing the thing. We're solving the problem. We're pedaling the bike so we're not falling. So during that break, and I 100% agree with you, I think those breaks are one of the most important things, because you can oversee something and now you're seeing nothing.
Yeah.
And all you see is the problem. You don't see any other way around it. So when you step back with those fresh eyes, your mind's actually even working on it. We don't realize it sometimes, but you're subconsciously working that thing out. It didn't stop. You didn't actually stop. Well, like on the surface, it's like, well, I stopped working on that for the moment. Well, you really didn't, because during that whole time, your subconscious mind has been sort of taking over that problem. And now your conscious mind is being freed up to do other things.
That's right. To move you around the world. So that's that's really the key. So 95% of our brain activity is happening in the subconscious mind. Like really think about that. The 5% is like, all of the, like the talking that I'm doing right now is part of 5%. And the being as present as much as possible. Part of it, looking out for things that can hurt me and, getting from one place to another. And, then there's the 95% that's like helping my body breathe, pumping my heart, doing all those things we don't think about, right? Just sniffing like I just did now. So a lot of processing is happening every single day. They say if you want to have good sleep, then you plan for it the beginning of, when you wake up. You plan for the sleep the next night. Okay. You're not going to catch up on sleep. So this is my sleep therapy practice. So if I want to have a good night of sleep, I start from the minute I wake up and I do the right things for my body that don't trigger wake state. And when I fall asleep, I do something like you and I talked about, like meditation before I go to sleep, thinking of something positive. And then while I'm sleeping, my brain isn't off. It's working. It's processing all the events of the day. Everything that happened that day is going on in the background and processing. So I wake up in the morning having processed what went on the day before. But the reason we meditate before we go to sleep is we blank out our mind, so we're not thinking of something negative. And then that's what our brain is going to focus on. We don't want our brain to focus on something negative. We want to process what's best for us.
Yeah. And I often like you said, like with gratitude and journaling, or it's like, what was the best thing that happened today, or always ending the day on a positive note. So you aren't going into that sleep pattern or not sleeping at all. I mean, I know so many people that have such restless sleep, or they don't sleep well. It's so common.
Yeah, some of it's physiological. Some of it you can do. There's hacks that you can do in your body to help your body want to sleep better. They used to say that about sleep training with kiddos. That's something I used to do is like, your body is a naturally tuned system. It does need to sleep, and it will sleep when it's meant to. So that our job as, say, parents, caregivers, or people for our own bodies is to set ourselves up for success. So when I set my kid, when I was, training my kid in her sleep cycle in the beginning, the only thing I could do is set her up for success, have a ritual every night that made her sleep. My kid was this kid. Every night before bed, she would jump up and down on the bed, getting all her energy out. And I'm like, okay, this is my kid. Okay. And I would have to, like give her limits. We call them limits, and say, okay, you can do that for 5 more minutes. And then we're going to calm our bodies down. Just like giving her predictive statements that she can understand and, that are age appropriate. Calm your body down. It's time for sleep, and your body needs to calm itself down. And so as adults, that really is what we need to do for ourselves, like I don't calm my body down by having a cup of coffee at 6 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? It's just not going to work.
Yeah. Or you don't start a project shortly before you're going to bed, or try to solve that problem from the day that now you're up until 2 a.m. still frustrated.
Yeah, I even said this like to you, is that at 8:30, my brain, I can feel it. It's almost like my brain is like,
Yeah, like I'm done.
it's done working. So I
Yeah.
can go veg out and do whatever I want. It's my me time off away from my brain.
So true. I mean, there's so many fascinating things about our brain. And I mean, and you study this, like that we just don't know or don't understand. But the
Mhm.
things that we do, it almost seems that we don't use them to our advantage.
Yeah. It's true. And a lot of times we don't want to work that hard. I've had people say to me, well, when can I stop doing meditation? And it's like, you want to
Yeah,
stop?
never.
Like, you're not doing it right if you don't want to do it every day. You know what I mean? It's like, so brain science will tell you that absolutely you need to meditate every single day to reset the balance in the body, because we are a go, 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 overwhelmed, overstimulated,
Yes.
people, and that's just how we live nowadays. Like, we're constantly, stuff is constantly coming at us. So you have to stop. You have to take a nap. But I think meditatively, once you go, there's a practice called yoga nidra that encourages you not to fall asleep, just to rest. So we need to learn how to rest. If you can do that without putting on a yoga nidra tape, fine. Take a rest, just sit there for like 15, 20
Yeah.
minutes, rest. Good places like, Google and it's escaping me, like big companies are incorporating rest into the workday because they understand that overtaxing the brain doesn't always produce the best results.
Yeah.
Overtaxing the body, you need to play, they have like ping pong tables in the workplace, and it's just creating the balance in the
Yeah.
workplace.
And
And
when we were kids, and I don't think they do this anymore, but remember when we were kids, like you would have
Mhm.
nap time in school.
Totally, yeah.
Like I don't even remember my kids. My kids are 21. I don't remember them having a nap time or anything like that.
Oh yeah,
So
because we
yeah, so it
learned.
was just go, go, go. And I believe my kids were fortunate enough that they did only have half day kindergarten at that time, but most kindergarten at a very young age, they're full day. So they're go, go, go,
Yeah,
absorbing
there's
all of that stuff at rapid speed all day long. I think if I was gone all that day at that young, I'd come home and probably have more than a few temper tantrums just out of sheer tiredness.
absolutely. And here's the reason why naps are super, super duper important for kiddos, is because when babies are born, they
Mhm.
have about 80% of their brain is fully developed. They're like creating new dendrites, like we have millions and millions of dendrites that they're like dropping off and creating new
Mm.
ones. And based on what they're learning. And so when they nap, that's when their brain grows. That's
Ah,
so the same for us when we so it's the same kind of thing, but so much more crucial and critical for babies.
yes,
So their sleep time is when their brains are developing, and you want them to have that sleep time. So like
yeah,
when I hear a baby cry because they're tired, it's a completely different
mm,
sound than when they're crying because they're upset because they can't move the
yeah,
world around, like they want it to. I mean, or because they're hungry, it's completely different. And, I think that we do the same thing as we get older. We get cranky, right?
yes.
We get short with people. We're easily triggered. We
Hmm.
get called names, like, oh, you're being a bitch. I'm fucking tired.
Exactly.
That's really it. Like,
Exactly.
and I've taught my daughter by example
Mm,
that, if I'm tired, I call it out. And I encourage all parents to do this, to
yeah,
normalize having, a range of feelings, a range of emotions. And you don't need to rage on your kid and scare the crap out of them, but you need to go,
yeah.
I'm really triggered right now and I need some space for
Mhm.
myself. I'm going to go in my room for 5 minutes. I'm going to put you in a
Yeah.
safe place and go in my room for 5 minutes, and that's setting the example for them to do that for themselves.
Well, and it's giving them permission to have those emotions and to express and deal with them. Whereas you said it was the norm when we were growing up as Gen Xers out there. And it was the norm. Like, you didn't cry, you didn't do this. And if you did, like, yeah, it just expressing your emotions. So, and I can definitely say that from experience, that was one thing I did throughout my life, was like suppress my emotions up until I was probably into my 30s. And you become very good at sort of wearing this mask and never letting anything like out, you know, so you're not really being true to yourself. I mean, the energy that it takes to just do that, not meant to mention the energy that's being blocked to allow good energy to flow. And
Yeah.
it was a big lesson for me in my 30s to let that stuff go, that it's okay to cry. It's not weakness. It's not this. It's just having an emotion and letting it pass instead of storing it and keeping it stuck.
Well, yeah. And if you think about it, like from a brain's or development's standpoint, it's almost like you're cutting off that part of your brain from even growing. Like when you were asking earlier about how does that happen? How do, you know, like, what does that look like? So like if you're doing something and a parent yells at you and you get scared, you don't ever want to do anything that makes a parent yell at you. So
Yeah.
you try to do whatever they say. So you become almost intimidated, like in this tiny, tiny space of like, I don't want to upset the parent because I'll get yelled at and that'll make me scared and then I won't feel safe. It really all comes down to how do we keep ourselves safe? And when our parents aren't doing that, when the parents are yelling at us, spanking us, hitting us, putting us in precarious situations where we don't feel safe, like not watching us the way that we should be, you know, like.
And I think teachers have a big part to do with that, not just parents, but parents,
Yeah.
daycare providers, teachers, anybody who is around us on a consistent basis.
Yeah. Imagine like you have this really great life at home with your parents and you go to school and you have this kind of teacher with this underlying abuse situation that she doesn't know how to address. I know back in the day when I was doing my practicum for child development, I sat as, you know, just an observer in a preschool, and there was a teacher that was like, one of the kids, I guess, was not being quiet, and the teacher was kicking the back of her chair, but in a way that was really aggressive. And then I saw her grab the child's arm and escort her to another room. And I don't know what happened then, but I had to report it. I'm doing observation. And I spoke to the person who was running the program, and she had said that, yeah, the teacher was struggling with some stuff, and that they were working on her. They were working with her to get better, you know. And it's funny, like it made me think like, yeah, even teachers have triggers.
Yeah. And they're dealing with stuff too, and you have to have empathy for them. But at the same time, it's like, well, that's my kid. You know,
Period, Mama
like,
Bear.
I have empathy and compassion, but like, yeah, that's my kid.
No, exactly. Because like I'm all about that. Like, not my kid. No,
because it's like you said, we're all doing the best. I believe that most of us are doing the best that we can in most given situations with the toolkit that we have. And
that's
I think
exactly right.
What I would love for my kids is to give them a better toolkit, if that makes sense. You know, like I think that's how we grow as humans. And it's like, I feel in today's world, we're being told so many things that require critical thinking, and they're not even teaching critical thinking anymore. And
some places are, but yeah, it's not in the public school system.
Yeah, and I even see it sometimes with my kids. Now my kids are a little bit older, and having me as a parent, I was always promoting critical thinking. Well, how do you do that? Well, I don't know. What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. You know, and trying to do those things. But it's a tough world out there, and it's really hard to decipher truth from lies, propaganda from like the whole gamut of it. I could go on and on. And I think we really need to be more discerning than ever on the thoughts and information that we allow into our brain, no matter our age. Like, no matter our age, whether you're a little kid or you're a grown adult like we are. And I question everything I see, everything I hear. Well, I'm not sure if I believe that. Well, I'm not sure if I believe that. And it is questioning it so that we can make things right in this world, and using that brain. But I think at some point we've got to shed off what we've learned to get those tools, if that makes sense.
I think a shedding off is important, because we don't have to do what other people do. What's right for another person may not be right for us. We have
Yes.
to have an open mind and understand that same concepts, but there's not like one right for everybody. There's not like one way
Absolutely.
for everybody, and there's not one truth for everybody. This
No.
I realized with kiddos. Like, I was in a situation with my kiddo where this kid was doing something. She and her best friend, were having some kind of situation where her friend was reporting it back to her mom in one way, and my daughter was reporting it back to me in another way. And in my mind, I'm like, well, it sounds like this is what was happening, because I know my kid.
Uh-huh.
And the mom was like, everybody thinks they know their kid, and like trying to make my daughter, like the perpetrator or predator in a way. And I was like, my daughter is the predator. Like, there was a mama bear part that I had to go, okay,
Yeah.
just calm down. Let's look at this rationally. But I was not in a position to call another child a liar either. So let's
Of
just kind
course.
of meet in the middle and be like, my daughter was speaking her truth. Okay. She's telling me her truth. Her version of the truth is true to her.
Yes.
So it has to be true to me. And the same for your daughter. So I'm not going to sit here and argue and make my daughter wrong or your daughter wrong.
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to have to walk away going, both of them believe what they believe, and not like kind of vilify either one of them. She wanted to vilify my daughter and make my daughter this big predator. And here she had sexual abuse in her history. So it shows you that the framework by which we perceive is biased on our own experiences. It has to be. It's the way we're designed.
Yeah.
So she's going to see every life experience through the lens of abuse. Does that make sense?
It does. And can we work on our brains or our subconscious to stop thinking out of that lens? And is that one of the things that the RTT does, is help?
100%.
That's what I think we need. We need to almost, to me, that's the goal, is to stop looking at things out of this one lens. And the one thing in the last several years, what I've ended up asking, not only of myself, because I personally feel like we live in a very world of deep hypocrisy. And I try to catch myself, and believe me, I catch myself more than not. If I hear something or say something and I listen to somebody else, like, am I being hypocritical? And I ask myself all this time, am I being hypocritical in this situation? I'm listening to you and I value your opinion and you have your own truth and based on blah, 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 and all this stuff. Now I'm going to say what I'm going to say, but is what I'm saying, is it being hypocritical of other things that I've said, of other, and it sounds like weird to talk about it like that, but believe it or not, I try to really catch myself doing that, because when we are speaking in hypocritical terms, we don't get to the truth of things.
Yeah.
Whether it's our own truth or things that we were told that there's not so many, that there's not so much truth in. So that's definitely been my theme for the last couple of years, is, am I being hypocritical? And listening to other people, are they being hypocritical? Are they talking out two sides of their mouth as well? Because for me, I can't decipher truth and make decisions that are going to benefit me and my family based on things that don't make sense. Because when you have a lot of hypocrisy, it doesn't make sense and it jumbles up your brain. And it's like, well, how can I feel this way about something, but then this action I'm doing is in complete opposite of this thing that I don't believe? You know what I mean? And it's so confusing how fragile our thoughts and the things that are around us go into it, and how easily swayed we are in whatever direction that is.
You have to keep in mind that we are human beings on a planet with, a lot of things that can hurt us, can damage us, we are a fragile being in a world that, there's a lot of
Mhm.
potential harm. So at the root of everything, underlying all of that subconscious mind stuff that we're talking about, is our whole being is rooted in our own physical survival. So at the base of that survival is we are like a collective. So we want to bond with others. We want to connect with others. And in order to do that, we need to fit in. Okay. So this is another thing we talked about too. Like there's a period of our lives when it's our full intention is to just fit in with everybody else. So we start to blend and look like and think like and act like everybody else because it's rooted in our survival.
Yeah.
Right. That is the deepest program we have, our own survival. So as we get older, we want to stand out more. We want to be more of ourselves. That's the kind of that's the vibration we start to, kind of feel into. And so that expression of who we truly are that separates us from the pack. Right. But again, it conflicts with our survival. Like, okay, am I going to do something that upsets the tribe, do something that I get ostracized for, that, what if I say something that other people don't believe and they cut me off, or they don't want to talk to me anymore. That, my friend, is complete survivalism.
Yeah.
You want to survive. It's a programming that overrides everything else. Just like when you're in a position and you're about to get hit by a tree, like your first instinct is to run. So your body, all of your brain activity goes to sleep, and all of your intention goes to running. Everything in your body. Like, have you heard of people who lift up cars?
Yes.
Yeah. My brother was one of those people. A car. My brother at like age 16 lifted the car up off my dad, saved my dad's life.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's like that kind of, that's underlying everything else. So that hypocrisy could come from, if I say my truth, they might not like it. And then I might not be I might not be safe. I might not be part of this tribe anymore. Does that resonate?
I think it does, because I think sometimes we knowingly are hypocritical in order to survive. And I think I'm at this place in my life where, like, I don't want to be a hypocrite to survive. I want to speak and live my truth, sort of damn be the consequences. I mean, not that I'm some crazy person, but you know what I mean? Like, I want to be truer to myself instead of portraying a version of me that isn't quite who I really am, if that makes sense. Yeah.
It
like
does.
I believe that and everybody just has the freedom to do and be what they want.
Yeah.
And I think it's that hypocrisy that sort of stops us from being free to be who we want. And then we get over hypocritical, and then we want to tramp on other people's freedoms to be who they want to. But it's like, no, I just want to be free to be who I want. I don't want to take anybody else's. I don't want to shove my stuff down other people's throat. I just want to try to speak and say things and express myself in a way that I'm not contradicting myself on the other side in order to fit in, like you said, because it is a game of survival at its core.
So that I understand. And now we spoke about like the brain science of all that. Now I would like to move into the intuitive and energetic side, because we both believe in that as well. That's exactly right. And so the intuitive part of you wants to come through. It's dying to come through. It's its job to come through. We're waiting for you to come through. Please come through. All of us,
and that's the reason for all this work, all the onion peeling, all of the meditation, all of the RTT sessions, all of the energy sessions, whatever it is that you're doing, all the stuff that you're nourishing your body with. Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. And if you look at it in an energetic sense, it's almost like these energetic tentacles reaching in to pull you through this part of it. It's like when they say, be yourself, you'll find your people, be yourself, you'll find your perfect mate, be more of yourself. Yeah. So we're constantly in the process of understanding, what does that mean? I am myself all the time, but really, like, you're talking about it, and like we all can understand or resonate with that. Like there's a part of me that I don't let out because I don't want to be ostracized. I don't want people to see me a certain way. Women ancestrally, I mean, back to like centuries of being oppressed, suppressed, you know, like burned at the stake for having these mystical abilities, you know, which is essentially the intuition, like living in an intentionally and intuitive way, you know, like now we're finally kind of coming into our own, and we're all kind of coming up together. So once we connect with other women who see that and understand that, we can reach out to them for that kind of support energetically, to be like, I'm on this journey of really expansion. Yeah, it's like ascension and expansion.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that, and you're so right. Yeah, know where I was going with that, but yeah.
Yeah, and like it's like, again, like the onion, you know, it's another layer to peel. Because when you think about it, we talk about the universe as having had this big bang, and then everything just expands outward. Wouldn't we do the same? Wouldn't our energy be compelled to do the same? Because they say we are stardust, we are made of stars, you know, we are atoms, we are like an atom that has a nucleus, and you know, neutrons around it, or neutrons. And what an atom like is comprised of, 99% of it is air, space. So 1% is solid material, yet here I sit on a table, you know, at a table.
Not falling apart.
No. And it's because the vibrational energy is keeping it together so tightly.
Yes. And even the way that we're communicating right now, we're communicating, and I see you as a full person. You're not all broken up. And
that's right.
With me and anybody watching this is how we're viewing things right now. Am I in front of you? No. But yeah, the energy thing is such an interesting, fascinating part that I think often gets overlooked.
Wow, you're just bending my mind, and I want to speak about it, because think about it. Yeah, I'm in front of you as this kind of floating image.
Yes.
And vice versa. So to me, it is you. And my mind has learned that it is you. But it really is pixels, little pieces of information, right? That a computer has processed. So the computer is our brain. And you are a manifestation of what my computer believes to be is you.
Yes.
Same thing as our inner world versus our outer world. Our inner world, our mind is the computer, and our inner world is what we desire and want. And then our outer world is a manifestation of that. Yeah. And this is the hardest thing for people to get around, because, and I used to think this way too, I daydream all the time. I know what I want, and I go straight for it. I just do. But wait, I didn't plan for that car accident. No. I didn't plan for this. And like you said, sometimes when you have an influx of just enough money, all these bills come, all these other needs come. Like I had to take my car in. Yeah. I had to take my car in yesterday. It wasn't just 100 and something to do the normal maintenance. I also had to get registration. I had to get inspection. I had to get emissions, and I had to get a few things. And it was $300 and some. And I didn't go, oh my God. I didn't fight it. I just went, oh, here you go. Great. And then the gratitude
on the way.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I said to myself, because I saw myself go, oh, no. What am I going to do? And no, stop that thought and let in the thought that more's coming. I mean, generating more money. I'm generating more money. And the same thing, like gratitude. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I don't have to worry about this anymore. I'm so glad this is taken care of.
And I'm so glad it was there to pay you without a problem.
And I still have more. I'm so abundant right now, you know, and more's coming in.
And I think we're also trained. You just sort of sparked that in my head, that we look at so many things on the outside world, but we very often look at our inside world, which is actually where all the action and the power and everything is. but
Yes,
we
ma'am.
are always looking externally for
Yeah.
everything. But where the real freedom is inside.
Yeah.
It's inside of all of us, and we so overlook it. And I'm realizing that so much more, that meditation and being quiet, how can I make decisions that are from my intuition? How can I take inspired action without giving myself a moment to even look or listen for it inside? And I think that that's the biggest shift, that I hope that's where we're all going, is looking more inside, and not in a selfish way looking inside, but how is my external world going to shift unless it shifts in my internal world first?
Exactly. And here's how is like the most important piece is, again, going back to when we were babies and how our internal language was our emotions. That is it, period. So we need to start listening to our own internal language, which is our feelings. You're allowed
Yes.
to have feelings, a full spectrum of feelings. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel injustice. It's what you do with it afterwards that matters. It's how
Yeah.
you take care of yourself around those feelings, that you don't absorb them, you let them move through you. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so mad at that. I'm so upset that happened, but here's what I'm going to do. Critical thinking. Here's what I'm going to do to feel better again.
Yes.
Because feeling better is the goal. We talk about vibration, okay?
Mhm.
The vibrational rainbow. I do this for my clients, a vibrational rainbow, okay? On the top of it is good feeling, it's joy, it's love, it's gratitude. On the bottom of the rainbow, the dense part is anger, fear, frustration, and we're not going to get up here 0 to 60. We're not, there's no Maserati that's going to take you up there. You're going to have to go up incrementally. So give yourself some grace. Give
Mm.
yourself some love around it and go, okay, I was really mad, but now I'm just kind of a little bit angry. I'm just a little bit annoyed, and you go
Yeah.
from annoyed to just I'm slightly frustrated to I'm uncomfortable. Okay.
Yeah.
To I'm gonna chill and watch a movie, and now I'm comfortable and I'm grateful that I have this space and I created this space for myself. So you have to be aware. You have to have that kind of internal awareness and that
Mhm.
intention to take care of yourself,
Yeah.
because the way energy works is we attract more of what we put out. So if I'm like going out in the world like I'm mad, then more people, yeah, I'm mad too, and like we're gonna have this, they're gonna continue to keep that going.
Yeah, and that's why mob mentality type of thing is like a real thing.
It's a
And on
real
the
thing.
other hand, when it comes to creating wealth, living the life that we want to experience, when the clearer we get on that by going internal with what really resonates, then the clearer we can feel and act on that inspired action that we get too. But when so much chaos is going on, I think it's hard to even get clear on the things that you really do want and how to get them, because there's no inspired action coming there. You're just doing and being and reacting. We're most of us, and myself included, like most of the time we're in reactive mode, and it's stepping back from that reactive mode and being present, tapping into our intuition, getting clearer on the things that we want to achieve, realizing what we're doing that isn't working, getting inspired action that will bring us to the thing that we want in the end. But until we go inside, because that inside, even though you say, oh, but I bumped into this person, but that was something that happened internally that then manifested in our outside world. I was thinking about that person and then they called. That was like the action. So it's like I was inspired to think about this person for whatever reason, maybe just to say hi, or maybe because they had some kind of news for me. But then the external thing is what happens on the edge, but it starts inside first. And I'm really getting much more in tune with that myself.
Well, and that's, I think, an example that everyone can relate to, because who hasn't done that? Who hasn't thought of a
Most
person
people have
and
experienced that.
experienced that?
Yeah, you get a text or whatever it is.
So when you frame it like that, like it's that simple. I'm
Mhm.
going to think of myself abundant, and that's all I'm going to think.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna think of myself in lack anymore. I'm not gonna think, like, if I see myself doing that, I'm gonna stop myself and then reframe it with an abundant thought. And then that way you start to move yourself
Mhm.
towards that. You're
Yes.
towards, that's where a manifestation comes from. And so, you know, we can't, again, do it from 0 to 60.
Yeah.
It's gonna be incrementally, like, and addressing negative thoughts, addressing these looping negative thoughts. You're not gonna all of a sudden not do that anymore. You're gonna, it's
Yeah.
a practice. It's
Mhm.
like going to the gym, lifting weights. You're not gonna
Yeah.
be not a bodybuilder
Yeah. I'm
after
not going to
one
do it
session.
overnight.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh my God. Well, we had such an amazing conversation. Holy
Oh my gosh.
cow. We
So
like
great.
went all around. But I really want is for people to take this seriously and do what inspired action it is on your own, whether it is maybe to reach out to Laurie and have some of this work yourself, because it is hard to go through this on your own and just doing it on your own. And if you really want to take that inspired action, maybe it's just booking a session with Laurie like I did. So why don't you give us all of your great information, which will be on the Wealth Within Us, well, the Wealth Within us, and on the description of the video that you are watching as well. We will make sure everything is there. So give us all the juicy details.
All the juicy
And I'm
details.
looking forward to my next session, and I will keep everybody posted on that as well.
I have a link tree. So it's linktr.ee / healing from within.
Perfect.
So that's where you can find everything. You'll find links to my Facebook page, links to my Instagram, my bio, all my stories, and a link to my parent support page. Yeah.
Awesome. And people can reach out to you for maybe a free consultation to learn a little bit about, to learn a little bit more. And if you're not local in the Lehigh Valley or the surrounding area, she is virtual and you can do it just like this.
Absolutely.
Because as we know, you don't have to be present to get the
Absolutely.
incredible amount of healing and resources and tools immediately.
Yeah, some of the most impactful sessions that I had on me while I was training were virtual ones.
It's amazing. That's
Yeah.
so awesome. Well, Laurie, thank you so much. I definitely will have you back because I'm sure there's plenty more topics that we have not even dove down. So I definitely want to have you back, and please reach out to her. And until the next episode, thank you for watching The Wealth Within Us.
Thank you.